first want to start with the super case in Tema, for want of a better expression. You have one person infecting 533 people. How does that come to you? Your initial impression when you heard this? Hello, Mr. Banaku.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Banaku. Thank you for joining us here on NewsDesk.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Banaku. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great.
Raise your voice.
Great. Thank you very much for joining us here on NewsDesk. So I want us to do some analysis on the figures that are coming in. Currently, we are standing at 4,700 as far as the case count is concerned. We have a case in Tema where one person has infected 533 people. I wonder what your reaction was when you heard this.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to your viewers. I think it is very worrisome, and that is why if you look at the Ghana Coalition of NGOs, our surveys and our submissions, we have always advocated for a progressive lockdown. After the lifting of the partial lockdown, we also recommended that we should impose much more restrictions in the region. That has been very slow. We also observed that the municipal and district assembly's role has not been much more effective in terms of restricting people, ensuring that people observe social distancing in lorry parks and the market centers, and even just seeing people moving around without doing any productive thing. That effort must be intensified now. Otherwise, we could have more than what we are experiencing, even though government is doing progressive testing. But we are human animals. We are not just human beings. So what our instincts tell us is what we will do. So we move a lot than even what is being happening. So I think that we are doing well, we are still doing well, but we need to double the effort of using the 6 strategies that Ghana has adopted. That is the social distancing. In fact, I have always advocated that we need to have a law, not just giving directives, but we need to have a law and ensure that the law enforcement really enforce people's movement and gathering. We still observe that people are not practicing the social distancing effectively. The issue of the use of the mask, we also advocate that it should be proper and consistent use of the mask. You meet people on the street and they hold their mask in their pocket or is on their neck, thinking that they will have to get into an enclosed place before they can use it, which still put people in the vulnerability status. So one case leading to over 500 is not palatable at all. What it just simply tells us is that we are beginning to slip. Our effort is being stagnated, and we need to be much more proactive than before.
Well, we've been made to understand that all the measures that are put in place are actually subject to review. What we cannot tell is whether or not there will be any form of a lockdown going forward. But with the issue of the face mask, for instance, you see some security officials, the police especially in town, enforcing it. But it, like you said, it's not widespread. But the issue of the recoveries have also come up. And the president did indicate yesterday that we have a little over 500, I think, recoveries now. Should that be something we should be worried about? That is just about 10% of the case that we have.
Yeah, it's even less than 10% recovery, but let's take it mathematically, we can run it up to 10%. And it's certainly not very palatable. We're seeing that if you look at the records currently available, and based on government is saying the treatment is ongoing, we have the treatment, we have developed the treatment protocol. If we are getting less than 1,000 out of the 4,700, then it means that we need to look back into our treatment. The other issue is that information is not forthcoming. Over the last 2 weeks, we have advocated for the mutual information. For that matter, the presidential advisor assured Ghanaians that he was going to ensure that information are timely. We are not seeing the timely information being released, and that can make people very irritating and very anxious. That can lead to depression of those people affected and their families. So we think that if only that is the exact record, then it means that our treatment is not responding well.
And so you think that we should revise the treatment method? And especially, I want you to look at this within the context that we have a lot of the cases being asymptomatic, and we're told by the Ghana Health Service that quite a number of them, significant number of these numbers or cases are being treated at home. Should we revise that? Should we have a case where every person who is infected would spend at least some minimum time at the treatment center?
You see, Ghana, we started doing well, and sometimes I have issues with the advisors to the president. Sometimes we are doing well, and before you realize, they give another strategy that try to undo all the gains we have made. If we had progressively done the partial lockdown, we would have stopped the virus by now. Now, when the president lifted the partial lockdown and instituted the state strategies, yeah, we lauded it, but we said, if you notice, 3 weeks ago, we warned that then you need to double your investment and logistical support for the state strategy. And one of them is when you trace and test, or when you are tracing, you know human beings are lazy if you don't supervise. Then you leave people at their very home without putting in the proper mechanism. Then they have the opportunity to move around. So all that we need to do is we should review some of those protocols that are not working well. If people are at home and they are not working, let's compare scientifically. As government, let us believe that they are working within science. If they are working within science and data, what they need to do is that those who have quarantine, how fast are they responding to treatment? And those who are quarantined in their personal home, self-quarantine, how effective is that working? They need to show us the data to tell us that those who are self-quarantine, this is the rate of improvement. Those who are mandatory quarantine at the health facility, this is the improvement. And then we can move from there. Otherwise, it's not giving us a clear picture. Sometimes you get confused about how the whole thing is being managed. But it shouldn't be a case that the team is trying to keep some information to themselves and then try to let the public begin to wonder, and that can also cause the fear and panic as they keep on talking about. So I think that let's review, they should provide statistics on those who have been home quarantined. How fast are they responding to treatment? And how are they responding to the guidelines at home? Vis-a-vis those who have been properly quarantined to provide treatment. How effective is that one, and how are they responding to treatment? And that record should be shown for every Ghanaian. And in fact, it should be published for just like what they are doing on the cases. If we do that, then we can all have that confidence in some of the strategies. But I do know that the best strategy for us to do is to restrict people when they are suspected. And let us go through the protocol.
And so, just as we wrap up on this, Mr. Benaku, I don't know what you make of the move to have Madagascar, release some of its local treatments, so-called, for the FDA's assessment and for subsequent use. What do you make of that?
A month ago, I openly declared that Ghana could have our own local vaccine or treatment regimen. we have, over the years, allowed people to tell us how we should do. And I cited an example that in Ghana, we have vaccine for malaria treatment. And our scientists have proven beyond reasonable doubt that they are capable of helping us to have a local way of responding to our health challenges. All that we need is to invest into research. We also need to collaborate with other countries like Madagascar. And fortunately, all the issues, all the medicinal properties of Madagascar, we already have there in Ghana. And so it is just a matter of using part of the fund that has been created to support research and development of those treatment regimen that we have, including vaccines. And we actually need to domesticate our local response strategy, as government has always shown an impression that we are domesticating our strategy. If really we are domesticating our strategy, then government should open up to allow our local scientists to support the domestication of the local production of vaccine, medicine, or any treatment that we may have, and that we can also become a health tourism center for the rest of the world.
And just what would be your assessment of how would your ratings be, I should say, of the work that has been done so far? We are told by the president that the WHO has invited Ghana to throw more light on the pooling method that we are using for our testing. That must be some good news and an indication that we are doing well. Would you not agree?
Yeah, we have rated the Ghana response at 8/10. We are still by that. We have done the research over the last 2 weeks. Actually, tomorrow we will have an official press release for the media across the country. We have conducted surveys in over 25 regional centers, including some West African markets within Ghana. We have observed and we have collected data that shows how Ghana is responding to the social distancing and the use of the mask. We will publish that report that can really inform government about what they are doing. If Ghana government improve on the strategy and the logistical support, we could move from the 80 by our assessment to 85 or 90%, and that would be a great thing. The other issue that I believe WHO have used is that civil society in the country has played pivotal role, major role in one, education, suppliers, advocacy in influencing policies on how government should move into direction and play a watchdog role. So all that are complementary efforts that is helping Ghana to reach this far. All that we will say is that we recognize WHO technical competence, but we also do recognize that there are still gray areas that Ghana will need to reinforce and consolidate the gains we are making.
Mr. Benako, I'm thankful that you joined us here on NewsDesk. Let's go onto the phone lines again and speak to Dr. Samuel Kaba, and he is in charge of the treatment center at the Ga East, and indeed has some role to play as far as COVID-19 is concerned in the Accra region. Dr. Kaba, thank you for your time here on NewsDesk. I want us to start on this note. We know that some of the patients are in isolation or in quarantine at home. What can you tell us about their recoveries and how they are responding to treatment, those patients who are at home?
Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Kaba.
Everybody listening to us. Let me rectify some few things I heard you say. I'm actually not in charge of the Ga East Center.
Okay.
I'm one of the leading members of the case management for Ghana Health Service and the director of Institutional Care Division. So when it comes to Ghana Health Service, I kind of responsible for most of the treatment centers and the Ghana Health Service.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
So, and at the lockdown period, I actually coordinated the activities of the laboratory.
Mm-hmm.
So, and let me say this. I do understand why so many people are worried about our recovery rate, but there are some few things we need to really understand, and everyone will be on the same page. One is the way we do the testing, which everybody now knows that when you get positive in Ghana, confirmed, you have to wait for 14 days. Then after that, we do one test negative, then the second test. And until we get the 2 tests negative, we will not declare you recovered. Everybody knows that now,
yes.
Which I think is a good news, and I think it's a standard we want to establish, and based on the advice and from WHO and other countries that are also doing that. Now, the second thing is this.
Before you move on, Dr. Kaba, just some quick information on that. When you test negative for the first time, how long does it take to have the second test done?
Here's the point. You stay with us for 14 days.
14
days.
So
the 14, we do the first test.
Okay.
If it's negative, 24 hours later, we do the next test because it's a serial thing.
There you go.
So you do one on the 14th. If it's negative, the next day, 15th, we do the next one, right? There should be 24 hours. It's a serial thing. So, and that is exactly where I want us to all go to, and so that people will be very calm when it comes to recovery. I'll use a typical example, like what happened with the latest cases that we've been able to confirm, the 500 and over cases.
Yes.
Now, those 500 and over cases, none of them will be declared negative until minimum the next 17 days, which means that they will be kept for 14 days. The 14 will do one test, the 15 will do the next. So let's say we receive the results by the 16th and the 17th before we can say they are recovered, which also means that we have to be patient and wait till at least a minimum. Anytime someone is confirmed, at least we have a minimum of 16 days to say the person has recovered, because when you consider the test done. So if we are expecting that these 500 people will contribute directly into our recovery within the next 1 week, it might not be so. So people need to understand that time frame that we keep the people. COVID is one of the things that requires a lot of patience when it comes to treatment and recovery using this kind of standard. So until the next 14, 15, 16 days time, we will not be talking of recovery of those people. So they will be contributing less. So although our figure is not rising, there will be a day that if we have isolated, I'm just giving an example, if we isolate 100 people today as I talk to you, the same day, those 100 people that we isolate this very day, until 14 days time, when we do the first test, then 15 days we do the next test, that which means we will get the results on the 16th, because 14th you get the result 15th, 15th you get the result 16th, right? Let's say if it's all things being equal, no delays. If then it means that we shouldn't be expecting these people to contribute to recoveries until this time period. So when we don't see our recoveries on a very frequent way, this explains why. And there might be some time you might see that about 50 people have recovered all because they were all seen at one particular time and they all came out negative after this particular time.
That is understood. What we want to know is that we know that we have some patients who are being treated at home. We want to know how they are responding to treatment as compared to those in other treatment centers. And how are you ensuring that these people are indeed in isolation and are observing the rules?
Oh, I think that there are some few things I want to clarify here.
Very well.
As much, when COVID is one thing I keep telling everyone, that it distracts everybody's attention. And it needs constant evaluation and constant change of the game. In a sense that sometimes you start with certain things, and then with the information you get on the ground, you change your plan. So when we actually started this, we were talking about home care, and we're talking about having people in the health facility. What we got to know was that depending on the people that we were dealing with, some were able to do home care and some were not able to do home care. So before we could say that, yes, we agree for you to do home care, we used to go with you to your house with a checklist. We look around, we all agree with you, and then we agree whether you do your home care or not. We assign a doctor to you and takes your parameters on daily basis. At least they speak with you twice. The game has changed. We are now talking about thousands and thousands of people. And we have also now seen that those who come to the hospital, they get to recover very fast as compared to those who do home care. That's what our figures have spoken to us. So when we look at it, we stop encouraging home care and we start to encourage more of hospital care. But we also realize that if you want everyone to be in the hospital and we want to use our regular health facilities, then we'll be collapsing the health system. And that is why we've designated hospitals just for COVID-19. And I must say thanks so very much to the Pentecost group. I mean, that is incredibly something that I will keep praising. They gave us that Pentecost Center at which has a capacity of over 1,000 people at the Gomoa Fete place. And that has also helped to change the game. Then you can actually isolate as many people as possible and put them in and the treatment as early as possible. So as we talk, we have discouraged the issue of home care. We are encouraging more, and we want everyone at least to come to us. We will look at the situation, we will assess the situation with the person, which has to do with the person's state, which has to do with the person's ability to actually do the home care, and which has to do with the treatment available. And we consider so many things before we now decide that, okay, you actually can do it or not. But the majority of the people we are having, we prefer to have them in health facilities because the recovery rate is higher. They tend out to recover very quickly, and we want to keep encouraging people being hospitalized.
Yeah. My understanding of what you're saying is that you are not encouraging home care as much as possible. You'd have people treated at the various treatment centers, but Absolutely. As we speak, we have some few people who are still being treated at home because you think that their condition would allow that.
That is, if they had already started before we changed, we switched a little bit when we started getting our data telling us that those in home care are not recovering. They take more time because you test the.
So what it means is that as we speak, home care is not an option anymore.
It's not an option that we really want to encourage. Let me not say anymore because in COVID you cannot be absolute with everything that you want. You always have to leave that margin to be able to deal with the situation. Because if I now tell you absolute, then somebody will say, no, but I know this person is doing it at home. But let's understand that we started from that and we are changing. And we have a transition period. In any change you are doing, you always have the transition period. Some people will get caught up in that middle. And you got to finish with them. You can't say, oh, because you took this decision, then it's from today, it's like this, and everybody. So we have that transition period. And we are encouraging as much as possible, not only here in Accra, in all the regions, that people should be seen in the health facilities.
Dr. Kaba, I want us to look at the Tema situation. Quite alarming, 533 people infected by one person. What is the strategy for that area, for Tema? Some have suggested that for some days or a week, the entire region, Tema area, should be on some form of a lockdown or some aggressive testing within, or mass testing within the area. Is this something you are considering?
All right. So we are actually developing a lot of strategies to address that, and very soon the leadership of the COVID team in Ghana will come out with something concrete on that. I wouldn't want to take things upon myself to say things that I would prefer the leadership to come out to do that, because one of the things I actually want to assure you and all the listeners is that immediately we got that hint, immediately we had the first cases coming out positive, we took certain steps and certain decisions already that, look, this thing, it can't go beyond, it can't overwhelm our health facilities. And that's what we've been doing all this time, to make sure that we never get overwhelmed. So some strategies exactly are being put in place to address it. And at the appropriate time, you will be more than glad to know what is being done, because everybody will get.
Finally, before you take leave of us, just last week, the director of the Ghana Health Service, your boss, said that we have about 36 or 37 treatment centers across the country. Are they all full?
No, what is happening is that some of the treatment centers we have people, some not. Depend, as I said, people come in series sometimes, and then they get treated. After that, they go home. And if you see the incident rate in all the regions are not the same. So not all the regions are having super great numbers. And so definitely we have spaces, and we are even searching for more spaces like that, the kind of Pentecost. I'll use your platform to also call on other religious and philanthropists or people who can actually also help with more facilities. Because in COVID, the more you get for isolation, the better. Then we'll keep our health facilities for regular cases, for regular patients, so that we don't start having people who fear to go to our health facility, because they think that if they go to the health facility, they will beat COVID-19. So we are working hard on that.
Dr. Samuel Kaba, we want to thank you so much for your time this morning on NewsDesk. And he is Director, Institutional Care Division of the Ghana Health Service, bringing us some more updates on recoveries, on treatment. And we should expect some announcements on the strategy for the Tema area following that spreading of COVID-19 to 533 people.